Rebirth Island is one of the most crazy areas in Warzone. Today I'm going to cover 10 tips to win on Rebirth Island in Warzone. Welcome back to COD Central TV. Let's get into the video. Number 10, land on the prison block. The prison block can be chaotic, but there is a substantial amount of loot and a buy station accessible near the water tower. If players land and get a gun, they should be able to survive long enough to loot and buy a loadout relatively quickly. The roof of the prison block is a very strategic location, as the zone rarely moves away from the prison after the first collapse. The only two locations that have an advantage over players on the prison roof are the two towers on either side of the prison. Players can control the roof of the tower after looting and hold players that have to rotate after the first collapse. Players will try to land on the roof and take control of the position. The great thing about the roof of the prison block is a limited cover throughout. Players will not be able to camp on the roof without fighting over other enemy teams early in the match. After the first collapse, players can formulate a plan to rotate into the new zone. Number 9, find a way to get a loadout. Teams that are fortunate enough to get their loadout and perks will have an extraordinary advantage over other teams. However, getting a loadout on Rebirth Island is no easy task. Teams with a height advantage will easily kill players that try to parachute in on their loadout. The loadout system on the map seems to be quite different than on Verdansk's. The loadout will drop considerably far from where you and your team are on the map, often in areas with little to no cover. Sometimes players can get lucky, but going for the free loadout is essentially suicide in most lobbies. Players that land on the docks or by the prison block have stores that are relatively protected. Teams should send a sacrificial teammate to the store in an attempt to buy the loadout. If that person dies, they will respawn. Trying to fight an opposing team with Black Ops ground loot is not a winning formula unless the player has a Mac 10 blueprint. Number 8, make a purchase. The pace of the gameplay on Rebirth Island can be extremely quick, and dead players will return to fight again. It is common to be in a gunfight for 10 or even 15 minutes, and players often forget to use their money until it's too late. Teams need to make a concentrated effort to get UAVs and airstrikes. Because getting a loadout is so difficult, UAVs are extremely effective late in the match. Similarly, players that try to camp the tall buildings can be pushed with a timely airstrike. Teams that use their money at the buy station before the final circle will have an incredible advantage and will likely get the win. Number 7, the sole survivor. 30 seconds is a long time on Rebirth Island, and players need to be conservative when taking on multiple enemies. Players need to be aware if they are the last person alive and find a way to avoid the onslaught of enemies. Audio recognition is one of the most important things in Warzone, and players will need to have a good ear to recognize where enemies are coming from. After a quick kill, players need to relocate and listen for their remaining teammates. It is much easier to win a 1-on-3 fight if only one enemy challenges at a time. Number 6, grab the right gun. The first fight a team gets into will often determine the trend for the match. If possible, make sure to get a viable gun with a large ammo capacity. At this point, players should avoid the XM4 and be aware that the common snipers have considerable bullet drop due to the low bullet velocity. Players lucky enough to find a Mac 10 on the ground will decimate enemies at close range, as it is better than the MP5 by essentially every metric. The RPD blueprints are viable, and the common and green Milanos are similar to the Uzi. The best medium to long range guns are the Bruin variants. Smithy and Spoiled Rotten are very reliable guns and will easily take out enemies early in the round. Beware of the aim down sight time with the Bruin variants, however, it is atrocious. Number 5, get a bounty contract. Bounty contracts are for UAVs. Teams will have 3 less players to worry about when they have an active bounty contract. Because of how chaotic the mode is, bounties are often poached, giving teams easy cash for a loadout. Squad wipes are crucial in the Rebirth mode, and bounties will often lead players to a full team. Once the squad is wiped, they can no longer respawn. Bounties are the best contracts on Rebirth Island, and teams that do not have a bounty active are at a disadvantage. Number 4, look up. Players will be dropping constantly. Good teams will be able to take players out of the sky and identify the location of other teams. Because the map is so small, players can try to avoid the notification radius while dropping in. Good teams will always be aware of their surroundings. It only takes 2 hits to down an enemy. Players caught sleeping will get beat down or outgunned by players dropping back in. Number 3, play the edge. The further into the circle a squad goes, the more angles an enemy can shoot from. Playing the edge after the first collapse is a good way to ensure no players are coming in from behind. Teams can hold the stragglers and use their money to get an early loadout. At the end of a match, players should find a strategic spot in the zone and be closer to the center of the circle. Nothing is worse than being on the edge of the zone and having it move away. Number 2, get a self-revive and a gas mask. Every player starts out of the round with a self-revive. Players need to make sure that they have not burned it before the final collapse. Teams that all have a self-revive can get out of situations other teams can't. Gas masks are essential on the small Rebirth Island. The gas mask allows players to avoid being shot while repositioning late in the game. Using a gas mask is also a great way to replay without getting in enemy sightlines. Number 1, positioning is key. This applies to all modes in Warzone, especially in close quarters. It is a much easier task to flick from one enemy to the other if players are side by side. Strategic teams will be close enough to play together but spread out enough to be a difficult target. Enemy teams will commonly focus on one target and expose themselves to the other two teammates. Camping side by side is a surefire way to give enemies an easy squad wipe. This brings us to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Also watch the 2 videos that are on your screen because I'm sure you'll love them. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.